All right, so welcome everybody. So tonight we're going to talk about teaching a simple yet really effective class. So I want to bring up a couple of points as far as when we're teaching classes, how some statistics and different things that are going to help with that. And during this class, we're going to talk about things in three. So there's going to be three cool things we're going to learn about essential oils. There's going to be three ways that you use essential oils. There's going to be three ways that you can purchase essential oil. You'll see as we progress through the class. Another thing to keep in mind, and the reason why we do that is because literally they will only retain about 10% of what you're going to say to them during the class. So we can give them all the doctor lingo and chemistry and everything. They're not going to remember it. And this isn't one of those times in an intro class that you're going to want to do that. So, and then also, as you'll see with the class and how we progress, you're going to want to be this as plain and simple and duplicable as possible, because you want those people to be like, sweet, this is something I can do. I could get up there and do that. Why aren't I doing that? So be thinking about it that way, okay? So I'll kind of go in and out of teaching a class and talking about it a little bit. So, hey everybody, so obviously you want to be edified by whoever it is that you're, who is hosting the class for you. One thing you can do the way you want to, but when we were trained with this, one of the things that they told us is not using food or anything like that until the very end of the class. And we'll kind of walk through that transition piece there, but maybe at the very most just have some oils and some water, and that's it during the class presentation. But so you're going to talk to them about the three goals. My goals for this class are to walk you through and be able to come away with knowing three really cool facts about essential oils. The first really cool thing about essential oils is that they are 100% natural and safe. And this is a great time. Can I have a couple people volunteer come up here with me? And so they're gonna all come walking up to you, kind of a deal. You're gonna take a bottle of peppermint. I've got my experiment, but we'll use peppermint. We'll use that as peppermint. So you're gonna basically have their hand out, put a drop on each of their hand, and you're gonna say, okay, so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna put your finger in it. You're gonna put it in your eye. No, just kidding. Don't put it in your eye. That's a bad thing to do. You don't want to do that. But what you're going to do is you're going to put it in your hand, you're going to rub it, you're going to put it in the top of your mouth. You're going to rub it together, you're going to put a little bit on the back of your neck, and you're going to take your hands, you're going to inhale it. You're going to have them do that for about 30 seconds. And during that time, obviously, we know what's going to happen. Their breath is going to freshen, they're going to be a little bit invigorated, and on the back of the neck, they're going to start to feel a little bit of a tingle, right? And so that's a great way to kind of boost and start, especially someone who's never experienced an essential oil, or I guess never experienced peppermint essential oil, because if they're coming to the class, we want them to have had a good and positive experience. So can you feel that? Yeah, that's a great way to do it. So with the power of these essential oils, they are a lot different than herbs. So is that someone trying to say something? So there are no side effects. There's nothing added or taken away from these oils, but they are different than herbs because they are a lot more powerful than herbs. Herbs, you take the whole plant, you dry it out, and then you're gonna put it in a pill form or in a tea or something like that. So whereas the essential oil, it's distilled down, super potent, so a little bit goes a long ways. Okay. So the first really cool thing, and this is where you're going to kind of bookend it. So the first really cool thing about essential oils is that they are 100% natural. So the second really cool thing about essential oils is that they are more powerful than medications. And who has had a class where they've got like that person who's a doctor or a nurse or even just that know-it-all person? We all have that, experience, right? This at least taught us this, and I was seriously like, hallelujah, this is the perfect way to for lack of a better way, to shut them up.
I thought we weren't allowed to compare them to medications. And wouldn't that fall into that?
So this is what Elise told us at the thing. She said, if you're teaching this online, you have to be careful. She's like, other than that, go back to the way it was. She's like, that's basically exactly what they told us at the Blue and Presidential Summit. And
okay,
Bree had kind of said to us, like, when she came back from that, said like, yeah, we can talk a little bit more freely about it. But like literally, it was like, no, you can go back. We have made such good friends with the FDA. We have done everything so far above and beyond that they like, this is fine. This is perfect. This is what they really wanted, was not the published side. We just went so far the other way that we got them completely off of our backs.
Gotcha.
Makes sense?
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah. First, I was a little shocked by it too, but
yeah, it's just been pounded into us for what, a year and a half now.
Well, and it has.
Well, so a little over a year.
It's kind of fun to be able to say things a little bit.
Well, I knew they'd loosened up and we could talk more openly, but that was very strong, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So we're good.
Good.
But so, yes, Kat.
I'm here.
I love that you raised your hand.
I just don't want to interrupt. Is there a reason why you only took one person to the front of the class to do the peppermint, and why not do the whole class?
So she said, ideal class size is 10 people. So all of them have had an experience. So just grabbing someone who hasn't had peppermint experience, she said you can grab basically up to 3 people. Because you don't want to, because a couple people mentioned that, like as far as like, well, I like to pass it around the entire room. And she said, in some ways, it's the 3 people who got it are like super excited and enthusiastic about it. And then the other 7 that are there are kind of are going to want that. They're going to want peppermint. They're going to want to possibly purchase peppermint at the end of the class.
Okay.
So that was where that kind of came in. But so as far as we all have those, so we all have those people that think they're know-it-alls or the medical professional. And this is the verbiage that she used to kind of stop those people. She says, is there anyone in the room who's a medical professional? Doctor, nurse, whatever. And so they'll raise their hand. So right then and there, you're stroking their ego. You're getting them like, oh yes, I'm the doctor in the room kind of situation. And then you're basically going to talk to them for a second. You're just going to say, all right, you probably know a lot more about essential oils than I do. You probably know a lot more about, biology and everything else, but we're going to really break it down into some pretty basic terms tonight so that everyone is able to understand. Is that okay with you? And usually by that point, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's fine. And you have kept them from being that person that's going to keep interrupting in the class and is going to keep like, well, however it is. So we have those kind of people. And she says it doesn't just help those medical professionals or doctors, nurses, or whatever. It's going to help just that person who's really know-it-all in general. Hi. Melissa just got home. So
I had to see who was on.
We got all sorts of them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello, everyone.
So yeah, we got Brooke and Lorraine
and
Stacey and Kat.
Good. Yeah, I'll hop on in a bit.
All right. But she said even it's going to help back off that person who's that know-it-all. Okay. So really super effective way to kind of keep the class rolling without tons and tons of questions. Because really you want this class to last you want this portion of the class to last no longer than 45 minutes. So after you've done that with them, you're going to basically be like, all right, let's go back to biology 101. This is a cell. You can kind of hold up the bottle, right? Or in the tear sheets that we use, it has the little essential oil with the virus and the, all that. So, but basically you're just going to explain it. There's a cell and a cell membrane. It's an oily membrane that's going to that's there to protect the cell. You know, bacteria live on the inside, bacteria lives on the outside, viruses live on the inside, and most of your medications are actually water-based, and we know that oils and waters don't mix very well. So the medications are not able to penetrate into that cell and to be able to take care of those viruses. It can only kind of take care of the bacteria on the outsides. Whereas, because the oil is an oil, it will be able to get in through that membrane and will be able to take care of the viruses on the inside, as well as be extremely effective on the bacteria on the outside. So that's the second really cool thing about essential oils, is that they are more powerful than medications because they can take care of a lot more than just a medication can. So the third really cool thing about essential oils is that they are actually cheaper than medications. And this is a great thing for Team Canada. As soon as she was talking to me about it, you know, socialized medicine and everything, I was like, but she's like, I want to get people to, I want the zero deductibles. I want the zero copays for medications. That's what she wants. But you're going to basically be like, who here has great health insurance? You know, you're going to get a couple people are going to raise their hand and whatever. You're going to say, okay, what's your copay? And you're going to get a couple people to answer, you know, oh, it's $20, it's $10, it's $5. Oh, I have socialized medicine, it's $0, right? Or whatever, however you can get it down. You want to get it down to the lowest possible point you can. And then if you were to go to the doctor and you were getting a medication, how much is that going to cost you? You know, at the very least, they're going to say $4 for a generic medication at like Walmart or something like that, but maybe cheaper than that, right? So you're going to add it up. So if it's $0, then it's $0. If it's $4, it's $4. Sorry, I just lost my place. And this, oh yeah. So, but even still, if it's $0 or it's $4, you're still going to have to take the time to go to the doctor. You have to drive to the doctor. You have to wait. Sometimes you're going to have to take off work, whatever it is, right? Then you're going to tell a story about, like, she used the example of melaleuca and lavender for an earache. So, you know, my daughter has gotten ear infections in the middle of the night. It's really rough. And what do you have to do? You have to stay up with them all night, take care of them, and then first thing in the morning, you have to take them to the doctor, get some medications, get some things to take care of it. It's still going to take 2 to 3 days before it really works really well for them, right? So you're going to tell that story and say, well, for my kid, when they get an earache, I'm able to take a couple drops of lavender and melaleuca, and I'm able to rub it on the back of their ear and do that a couple of times before they go to bed. And for 44 cents and 12 hours later, my kid's earache is gone. And that's something that's going to happen for thousands of people tonight, is they're going to be able to take care of it. So even with your $0 deductible and copays, I beat you in gas alone in what it would take you to get medication from the doctor. So the third really cool thing about essential oils, or you can even ask, she did a lot of like, who can tell me what the third really cool thing about essential oils is? And then whoever raised their hand, she'd just give them a little sample vial of whatever oil she had on hand. So she'd come to the class. She's like, I would probably give away like 10 to 15 oils in little sample vials. That's not everyone can do that, right? But she's like, it's lemon, it's wild orange or whatever like that. So take that part for what you want, but she would just hand out those samples. So they'd be like, okay, what's the third really cool thing about essential oils? Oh, they're cheaper than medications. Here you go. Give them a sample. So what are the 3 really cool things we learned about essential oils today? That they are safe and 100% natural, that they are more powerful than medications, and the third is that they're cheaper than medications. So drilling that home to them, by the time they go home to their husband or spouse, like they're going to be like, okay, usually you go to a class like that, your husband's going to ask you, so what was this class about? And you should be able to, by that point, be able to like, well, they're natural, they're safe, and they're cheaper than medications. You can remember that, then you've done a good job. If you help them remember that, then you've done a good job. Does that make sense? Yeah. So now we're going to learn about the 3 ways that you can use essential oils. Now this sounds a little hokey, because what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to smell something and it's supposed to help me. right? So what I want you to do is I want to shake your fingers. I want you to pinch your nose right here. And right underneath where you're pinching your nose is your olfactory nerve. And that is the direct route into your limbic system. So it is the fastest way that you can use essential oils. Now, who's had a surgery before? You can have some people raise their hand. How was it that they put you under for the surgery? Most of the time they'll say, well, they put the mask on my face, right? You're like, yeah. And then they tell you to count backwards from 10. Usually you can't even get to 10 before you're out, and then they can take care and do the rest of what they need to do for you to get you ready for the surgery, which apparently I spelled surgery wrong. It's gonna bug me. But so in a medical situation, that's what they're going to do, is they are going to use the fastest way to get into your system, into your limbic system, by that smell and through that olfactory system. So that is the first way that we can use essential oils, is aromatically, because it is the fastest way. So the second way that we can use essential oils is topically. So let's talk about some places that we don't want to use essential oils. You know, earlier I was joking around, you don't want to put it in your eye, right? Where are some other places that you might not want to use essential oils? You know, they're going to give you a couple things. Obviously, sensitive areas. You don't want to. Sorry. Yes. Yes, Stacy. And this just totally. Okay. So. Sorry. Oh yeah. So you can talk to him a little bit about at that point how to use some topical areas that you want to avoid. You know, you don't want to put it on the inside of your ear. You don't want to put it in your eye. Sensitive areas of your body. And then this is a good time to also talk about infants and elderly, or those with sensitive skin, that they'll want to dilute the oils and that they possibly want to put them on the bottoms of their feet because of how it's more calloused and they won't have any issues there, right? But basically, when you're using essential oil topically, what do you want to do? You want to put it where it hurts. So if you've got back pain, you're going to take that oil, you're going to rub it on your back. If your knee hurts, you're going to put it there. If you've got a little sunburn, you want to use some essential oils there, you're going to put it where the sunburn is. That's the way that you're going to use an essential oil topically. So that's the second way that we can use essential oils. So the third way that we can use essential oils is internally. And because doTERRA's oils are pure, they're not only safe, but they're recommended to be taken internally. What are some ways, and this is where you can start asking some questions, you know, what are some ways that you could use the oils internally? Well, you could take, you know, hopefully they're going to say, well, you could take it in water, you could put it in a gel cap. It's also a good time that you can mention that doTERRA has some products that have soft gels, like pre-made soft gels. And then you're going to want to talk to them a little bit about what kind of ailments would you want to use your oils internally on. You know, stomach issues, possibly colds, etc. So you can talk to them a little about that way. And then what are some of the ways that you could use the all three, or that you could use the oils all three ways? And you can talk to them about that part. Just, you want a quick dialogues. You don't want to take too much time for it, but pretty good. So now comes the fun part of the class. Because you have sampled all these people, and because they have all been had a positive experience with essential oils, you're going to tell them, like, and this is where you can give something away or not, but basically, who here has had a great essential experience with essential oils? I want you to come up here and tell me about your experience in under 1 minute. And you really got to drive home that under 1 minute point, because what happens? You get those people that are like, oh, and oh my gosh, this worked for this. And, you know, 5-10 minutes later, your class is getting out of hand, right? But she wants to try and get as many people of those, you know, about 10 people that are there at the class to share what their essential, like share an oil experience with them. Because they've all had that, you've now taught everyone a little bit more, because most likely you didn't give them all peppermint. Most likely you didn't give them all like a wild orange. They've had a couple of different things for whatever ailment that you specifically gave them for, right? So now they know that DigestZen, or is it Zen? What is it in Canada? Zengest? Yeah. they know that that's going to help with the stomach issues, and it's giving them more ideas in their head. So that's really good. And like I said, she gave away tons of samples, but you know, that's not, I'm not going to teach that to people, because that's not everyone can afford to be doing that right off the bat. So now we're going to kind of go into the close of the class. So they know 3 really cool things about essential oils. They know the 3 ways to use the essential oils. And now you're going to talk to them about the 3 ways to purchase essential oils. So the first is retail. Now, none of you here tonight, and this is where the wording really matters, right? So first is retail. None of you here tonight are going to purchase your oils at retail. The only time that you should do this is if you're at a spa or a chiropractor or some sort of professional setting or something like that. The second is wholesale. It's just like Costco. You can get the wholesale pricing every time you purchase your oils, and that is 25% off of the retail. And the third and the best way to get your essential oils is below wholesale. And this is the only way that I purchase my essential oils, and it's the smartest way to buy. But I'll tell you more about that later. You're not going to go into all of that right then and there, okay? And actually, you don't talk to them a ton about that till later on. Then you're going to talk, and this is about where my notes started to get a little fuzzy, so I'm going to rework these before I put them out for tomorrow for you guys. But you're going to talk about the kits. Now, you don't want to talk to them about all the essential oil kits, but talk to them about family essentials, home essentials, natural solutions. You know, you can tell them, you know, family essentials is 10 most basic oils that you can use for your family. It's the small bottles, and the cost is this. Home essentials, 3 times the amount of oils, a diffuser for half the price, you know, and then natural solutions. This is a way to get a lot of doTERRA products in your home to try and find what works best for you. Yeah.
Is it suggested to mention the pricing or just?
Yeah, you can mention the pricing at this point, because they're going to have a tear sheet in front of them. You don't have to use the tear sheet, but they're going to have a tear sheet that's going to say the pricing on a lot of the stuff at this point. So that's fine to go ahead and talk to them about the actual pricing here. I wouldn't go into detail about it, or like natural solutions. This isn't a point where you're going to want to like, oh, and if you also get on LRP, you can get this percentage back, and you know, or start your percentage at this point. So just very, very brief, but you can give detail there.
Okay.
So then this is where we've started to work some of this into our Facebook class, the 3 types of people that come to this class, right? So you're going to talk to them, and you're going to say, so when I do these classes, there are 3 types of people that I run into. The first type of person comes to this class and wants to live naturally. When they learn about essential oil, learn about how essential oils are safer, cheaper, and more effective, they naturally want to use them on their families. doTERRA has a great program to support this type of person through essential oil education, because obviously you're going to plug them into essential oil education programs, whether Facebook classes or whatever you're going to do. So the second type of person that comes to this class and is thinking, I wish my mom, my sister, my cousin, my neighbor was here. doTERRA has a program to support this type of person, and if they share consistently over time, they will start to earn commissions that can pay for their oils. We would call this free natural health care, and thousands of people are receiving this all over the world. So the third type of person that comes to this class has been looking at me the entire time and thinking to themselves, this is what I want to teach. This is what I want to do. I want to teach people about the power of essential oils and change people's lives. doTERRA has an incredible program for this, and those who consistently change. And as they consistently change people's lives, they begin to supplement or replace their income. If you're the second or third type of person, see me after the class. So you've now talked to them a little bit about the possibility of having their oils paid for, or possibly building a business, but not using those words. The reason why, I can't remember her name. For the 2 years, she was one of the top 10 finalists she was in the top 10 in the incentive prizes for the doTERRA incentive trip. and she was like an enrolling rock star. But what she wasn't doing is she wasn't finding builders. She was on Elise and Patrick's team. So she basically was like, you need to talk in the class. You always have to mention the possibility of them being able to get these, like being able to share, become a sharer, be able to become a builder. And she's like, I want you to come back next week and think of something that you want to do. This is how she worded it when she sent it to Elise, and Elise is like, holy cow, this is perfect. This is exactly what we need to do for everybody. And since this, it's helped out tremendously. So then after you've done that, you're going to share your most defining moment with essential oils, whether it's because it helped your kid with this or that or the other, right? But really, it has to be powerful, and it has to be something that you really have had a great experience with. So now to kind of really move into the close of the class, you're going to pass out, well, you can use the Essential Life books, you can use Modern Essentials, or even just the A to Z guides or something like that, but you need to have something that they can physically hold in their hand. And this is something you want to like write copy on so that no one's just taking these home, because that happens a lot, right? And the reason why Elise talked about using the Essential Life book is because it's going to get their mind thinking, is because it has all the different recipes and it has all the fluff and frill. That's what's going to make people want to use it. Whereas I've always hated the Essential Life book until I realized that that was part of the purpose behind it. I'm a Modern Essentials. I want the textbook. But the textbook won't keep people's interest. So let's see. So thank you for coming tonight. I really enjoyed being with you. This is actually the most important part of the class, where we discover what oils are best for your individual, to fit your individual concerns. You're going to write down, and obviously they've got a tear pad or you've given them paper at this point. I want you to write down your top 3 ailments that you or your family are dealing with. And if you promise to write those down, I'll tell you mine. And you can tell them what it was, where your what your health concerns were when you first started with doTERRA, and what they've been able to help you with a little bit when it comes to that point. And this, as you're explaining about the book, you know, this is, if you know the alphabet, you can become an essential oil expert, which is really true. And that's what we want to teach them, because we want them to go to the book. As much as we love talking to everyone on our team, you know, when your teams get big and when you're trying to work on it, it can kind of stunt if they're calling you or texting you or whatever for every little ailment. You want them to understand it and how to use that. And from the very get-go, you can do that with this. Does that make sense? So as we're looking through the book, okay. So then they're going to start looking through the Essential Life book. They're going to be writing down their health concerns. And then you're going to go up, and you want to have, if you've got a class of 10 people, you want to have about 3 people there that could help close the class. If that's not possible, that's okay, but that's what's going to be the most effective, because, you know, hopefully you're at least going to have 2 of you, someone who's hosting the class who's a builder, and yourself, because you want to try and get to these people as quickly as possible going through this without like totally rushing and like jumping from person to person. But as you're coming up to them, she says, she's like, I've never seen something work so well as they writing down, they're working on it, to be able to come and kneel down in front of them and say, what are we working on? That's all you got to say. Then at that point, you can go ahead and you can start talking to them about their issues. Yeah, Kat?
I am wondering, I'm just usually in a class, I go through the top 10 oils. Did they like not recommend doing that?
No, she said, so the reason why, because that was a concern a lot of us had, right? But she's like, the top 10 oils may or may not be the best essential oils for them. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but you're gonna, by not just talking about those and talking about everyone's experiences is going to be helpful. The other reason is it's because it's simple. You don't have to know everything about the essential oils to teach a class. And she talks about in the early days at doTERRA when they were like had their little office like before the campus and the whole works. A couple of the bigger leaders actually they rented offices in that same building so they could use like the conference room and be around doTERRA. And she had so Elise had Laura Jacobs, which we all know who Laura Jacobs is. Like, you know, woman could talk about essential oils for days on end. She knows everything there is to know about essential oils. But Laura Jacobs came into her office and was basically mad and frustrated and was like, how is it that you are better at doTERRA than I am? No one should be listening to you. They should be listening to me. I know more than you do. And Elise, who's very blunt in what she said, she's like, and that's exactly why they won't. You don't have to know everything. I teach 3 really cool things about essential oils, and you go into this whole dissertation about it. And it's great information, and it's great for continuing education side of things, but it's not the simplest, most effective way is talking about cool things about essential oils, how to use them, and a couple of and some personal experiences. And since that day, Laura Jacobs has kind of toned down what she does in her classes because Elise and Patrick were the first ones to have a tear sheet. And it was really called 3 really cool things about essential oils. And that's how they got their business going. So does that kind of make sense?
It does. I think that's like, that's hard for me because I totally understand and I see it. I'm just like, that would be really hard for me not to talk about.
But I find that it only works. Sorry, Catherine. I find that it only works if you actually sample these people, and those people that are actually there have had a sample or an experience. If you just grab 10 people, invite them because they're wanting to know about natural health solutions, but they've not been sampled, it's not going to have as good an impact on that. And that's why it's really important to try and do it that way. Now, am I always going to teach a class this way? No, but when I'm doing like a launch or if I'm doing 6 weeks too late or whatever, and I'm sampling people, like this is what I'm going to go to. But you're right, it's not going to work in every situation. The other thing that Elise did say about that, Kat, to your point, is it's kind of hard, is she said, you know what, honestly, if it's about your ego, you're trying to stroke your ego on letting people know that you're the essential oil expert. And that's exactly what you don't want to do, because you want them to be comfortable possibly teaching a class. You want them to understand it, and it simplifies things like crazy. And if you're looking at the big picture, the long-term picture, you want as many people as possible being able to teach a class. And this is how you're going to get those. This is how you're going to duplicate that down, you know.
And that's my problem too. I love everybody to think I know everything.
That was Melissa, by the way.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Okay, so first, I remember at the beginning where she's like, okay, there's 3 ways that you can purchase oils. You know, she says retail, you're not going to do that. Wholesale, and then below wholesale. How is this below wholesale? Like, how?
Well, below wholesale because you're getting a percentage back as well from doTERRA in points.
So she's going into LRP then?
No, she doesn't at this point.
Oh, so we're not done?
We're not done.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting there going,
But it's also below wholesale because when you buy a kit, you're not
that's true.
You're not paying membership, but you're also getting a discount because it's a bundled kit. You know, it's a bundled price.
True. Okay. And then, okay, my second question,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you're going to get to this because I thought this was the end. And so I'm like, I'm confused on how to close here. Like if they're sitting there and they're looking at their top 3 elements, and let's say they have this list of oils now that's like, like some really random oils, like
Mhm.
Arbor Vitae and Douglas fir and things that don't come in a kit.
Uh-huh.
And then you're sitting there trying to help them figure out, like, you want them to pick a kit because you know it's going to save them the most money, and then they'll have the basics. But you just spend all this time helping them look up their 3 elements, and there's, you know, how do you close on that? Like, it's going to be a complicated close is what I'm thinking.
It has the potential to be, yeah. Most of the time, what that's going to do is it's going to provide an opportunity. So basically, you know, you go up to the person, what are we working on? And they're going to start talking to you about their stuff. So the elements, and then basically here's what you're going to, this is where I don't have any more notes on the computer, or as much as I want to, but basically, so the elements you're looking at right here, there's 1 or 2 kits that I'm going to recommend. Now, it might not have all the oils that we're looking at, but it's going to give you a good start. And then later on, you're going to talk about the wellness consult, and then you can be like, and those other oils that so she doesn't talk about the loyalty rewards at all during the class.
Okay, good.
That's true, Lorraine. There is usually a more common oil for most ailments. So you can start it, like, you know, they might be talking about Arbor Vitae or whatever like that, but usually there's something in the family physician's kit that could help out first. Does that make sense? You could try first, and you're going to have that in the kit option. So let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to look through the book I got here. Because I lost my place. Okay, so basically at this point you've recommended 1 or 2 of the kits for that person, and then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have you fill out this wholesale information sheet, which obviously you've got that there with them in your TerraPad. Or she said at the very least, if you don't do anything else, like if you don't have TerraPads or you don't have any of that, the only thing, just print off the wholesale order form so that they can fill that part out. Okay, so then they can, even on that, they could write out their, she's like, don't enter them in on the computer right there in front of everybody. She's like, it's a logistical nightmare. If you're trying to get a lot of people, you can't do it. I mean, if it's 1-on-1 or 2 people, that's totally different. But so this is a great transition piece. You've talked to him about it. So I'm going to have you fill out this wholesale information sheet. And then you're going to move on to the next person. So as they're filling that out, then you're going to the next person, working your way through, right? So the other piece to this, though, is she said, because they've already had a great experience with essential oils, most likely they're coming to this class knowing that they're probably going to purchase something. And because of that, she doesn't get a lot of the, well, I need to go home and talk to my husband about it kind of stuff, because they kind of know that they're already going to. Now, that's not to say it's foolproof. They still have some of those issues sometimes, but it cuts that down a lot, because if you're getting that random person coming into a class, that is what someone's not going to go spend $150 or $250 or, however much they're going to spend without talking to their spouse most of the time, or they're going to beg for forgiveness later on, right? So as you go to at the end of the class, they filled out their sheet, they've selected what kit they want. This is what you're going to do, and you're going to transition into wellness consult scheduling. And it's just going to be as simply as, because you've invested in your health, I'm going to invest in you. Now you're going to forget a lot of what we talked about in the next 3 to 4 days. You're going to forget a lot about the stuff that we've talked about today, but in 3 to 5 days, I'm going to come, I'm going to come over and we're going to do a little consultation, and I'm going to show you how to use your essential oils a little bit and what else we can do for you, right? So then this is where you're going to say, you know, what morning, noon, or night, what time works for you, and schedule the appointment for them. So you want to sell this point like, hey, you've invested in yourself. I'm going to invest in you now. This is when I'm available to come over and help you with XYZ. That makes sense? Yeah, maybe so. So as far as the way Elise does things, she never does an essential oil class where she doesn't have a business training at the end of the class. So you've collected all the sheets, and this is where you're going to kind of, you know, all she uses to book classes, and I know Kat, we talked about this today as far as like possibly diffusers or something to give as hostess gifts. This is what Elise does. You know, the little keychain, sample vial keychains? That's all she has, and she's like, I love twirling this on my fingers. I'm walking around the room, and she says, you know, basically, have any of you guys seen one of these before? Or I guess at the end of the class, you'll gather the slips. You're gonna twirl on the keychain and say, so I have two really cool things. I have two fun things. First, right after this class, we're gonna have a quick 30-minute business overview for sharing products, and you'll have a chance to try some food made with essential oils. So you're kind of teasing them with the food aspect, right? This is where you're gonna bring out the peppermint brownies or whatever. And then you're gonna show them the keychain and say, the second is anyone who puts a class on the calendar tonight will get this free keychain. And then for every guest that attends your class, I will give you a sample vial filled with oils to put on your keychain. So then they have a little bit of a incentive to get as many people as they can there. And again, as she said that, she's like, give them some lime, give them some lemon, give them wild orange. You know, it doesn't have to be expensive oils. You don't have to give them all On Guard and, you know, obviously not frankincense and helichrysum or stuff like that. But she said it's so funny how people want the shiny toy and they're willing to do whatever they can, and twirling it on the finger made a big difference to that. So that was that part of it. And
Just
sorry.
my concern is giving away keychains to people who don't, like, they say they'll book a certain day and then they end up canceling, and they try to reschedule and they end up canceling or whatever. So my worry is spending money and not
having anything come of it.
Yeah.
So Elise's take on that was basically you want to book a solid time right then and there with them on the spot, so that they, you know, you pull out your calendar, they pull out their calendar, and really nail something down. She's like, you're going to have the cancellations, you're going to have some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, because they've taken it, people feel an obligation to do that. They feel an obligation. Whereas sometimes if you say, hey, I'll bring this, you know, when we host a class, I'll give you this keychain and filled with essential oils, that they don't have as much of a chance to, or they have much more of a chance to back out, because yes, they've made a commitment, but they haven't taken anything as part of that commitment. Where they've given it a keychain, then you have made somewhat of a commitment to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she said, worst case scenario, you're out, whatever, is it $5 or $6 for the keychain? So it's not, I mean, you don't want to go around throwing those away, but it's not like a diffuser or something like that.
Did she mention for hostess the evening of their class, if she's providing anything at that point, or what is she providing, a gift, or is she providing 10% of sales? What is she doing?
As far as to the hostess?
Yeah.
So I don't remember. I can look back through my notes and find out on that exactly what she's done at that point. But I think honestly, if those people are going to enroll, you're going to obviously put them underneath of them, and then they're going to have the potential to make commissions off of them. So that's where the incentive is, like, or I guess more the financial incentive to do that. Does that make a little bit more sense? But I'm going to look at that a little bit more too. I'm going to look through my notes on that one.
Hey, Brandon, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of having like the 30-minute business overview after the class. But I was curious, like, does she advertise that beforehand or just like?
Well, no. What she normally does is, so every class she has a business overview at the end of the class. So the class is over at this point, right? You've potentially gotten them enrolling. You've got the enrollments. You've got whoever's going to host the class done with you. And then you're going to start into that because you've already said, okay, there's two things that we're going to. The two fun things that we're going to do right now is we're going to have that business overview. And at the business overview, some people are going to stay because they want to try the food. Some people are going to stay because they're actually interested in that. And if they're not interested in it and they don't want to try the food, then they can leave at that point. So the class is kind of over. You're not making them stay any longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she doesn't say like, we're going to have an essential oil class and a business overview.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, when does she mention that it's even existing? Like, does she, I can't remember. I missed the very beginning. Like, did she mention anything at the beginning?
As far as you're talking the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, did she say at the beginning, like, hey, and for anyone who's interested afterwards, we're going to have a little business overview for anyone who wants to stay after the class?
No, the only time she mentioned it is right there with the two things. Afterwards, we're going to have little business training, and the business training is like literally like the most simple basic thing you can possibly do, as far as like, and maybe you can teach someone to sample an essential oil, give them a couple quick things. I think we're talking about that next week as part of that, but super simple. But yeah, she doesn't mention it until that point. And if you want to stay, we're going to have some cool treats made of essential oil, something made with essential oils in it. And then that way there's not the pressure to stay. They don't feel obligated to stay. They can leave if they want to, but most of them try and stay because they want to try some food. That's the incentive for not doing it right then, or not giving them the food during the class.
So Brooke, when they were talking about 3 types of people, as they were saying, a sharer and then a builder, and talk to me at stay after the class if you think you're one of those people. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other question is like, okay, so if you're at someone's house, you do have to forewarn them that.
Yes, your hostess for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not gonna do that. You're not gonna spring that on your
overtime. Yeah.
Yes.
I guess the other question there too is like, is the hostess providing the essential oil treats, or am I?
Elisa said she's had a lot of people that are like, they want to do something big and they have some grandiose thing, and she's like, no, just if they want to make something, then just make a box of peppermint brownies. She's like, I used to pay my kids I'll pay you $5 to make a box of brownies for me. Throw a couple of drops of essential oil, peppermint or wild orange or whatever in it, and call it good, right? Now, some of them are going to want to go a little bit more overboard on that. Some people like that aspect of it. So you can let them do a little bit more if they want to, but at the worst case scenario, you just bring a box, or you bring like a pan of brownies with peppermint or wild orange.
Mm-hmm. Just curious if I offer it or if I expect it from my hostess.
And I think it depends on who your hostess is. If it's a brand new person, probably not. If it's someone you're working with and they're starting to potentially do the business, then maybe it is something you want to say, like, why don't you do this? But I think that's really on a individual basis.
Hmm.
And sorry, Lorraine asked a question. Oh, so as far as you get people to book a class, Lorraine, you want to try and sample their guests? Yes. So you're going to want to book the class with them for at least a week out and possibly more like 2 weeks out so that you can start the sample process with them. You can, if it's someone who's really interested and wants to build a business, they're the 2 or they're the 3, and they're excited about it, then definitely you can talk to them about how to properly sample someone, go through a quick basic training on that with them, over the phone or whatever, so they can do that, or you can help them in that process of sampling some of these people. But yeah, the whole goal is to try and sample. You want them all to have that experience beforehand. So.
I would think 1 week's not enough. I'm just sitting here thinking.
And that's right.
I need to give the samples to my hostess. My hostess needs to give the samples to her guests, and then we need to follow up with these guests to see if they had a good experience. But I need to get their address and information in order to follow up, and they're hearing from me, which they don't know.
Well, and that's why I say a week, because technically you could do it within a week, but you want to get closer to that 2 weeks. And if you don't have the time or energy or effort to be able to do that at that point, then yeah, move it 3 weeks out or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think all of you guys are smart enough to know and understand what you can and can't accomplish in a time frame, right? And so do what's going to work for you. And as far as Lorraine just asked also, the keychain, yeah, you're going to give it to them. They're at the class, that they book the class with you, so that then they have that obligation to, they've accepted the gift to do it, so they're more likely to follow through on actually doing the class. Brooke, it looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I had a question. Well, not a question. Because Minna was saying like, oh, you got to get the samples to the hostess. If your hostess isn't planning to, like, it's just a happy customer, she's not like intending to build it as a business, wouldn't it be simpler just to say like, hey, would you mind, if I contacted the guests that you have invited, just let them know that I'll be reaching out to them to give them a free sample before the class, essentially.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to like go through a middleman to get the samples out. Like you just contact them, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I think there's also just something to think about, like who it is that's going to be hosting that class. Is it someone who's confident and capable and could actually follow through and do that? Or is it someone who's brand new, who's like, sure, let's have a party. I'll have a party. Those aren't that person who's just having a party. You're going to probably want to get the list from them and try and work with those people. It will be better, however, if it's going to work and function a little bit better if it's someone they personally know, right? So if they're capable of handling that situation and being able to sample them and do that, then sure, have them do it. But if not, then yeah, absolutely get it from them and work on it. Which,
Gotcha. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So that's it. Super simple, right? We had to literally, so as part of this training was like super intense. Like we asked Cherie, like, was it like super hard and like intense when you were there? She's like, oh no, it wasn't at all. When we got there, Elisa was like, I'm going to hold you guys accountable. So in between sessions, like we would have assignments we had to do where we had to like go find some random person, someone else there at the training that we didn't know, and we had to like teach the class to them. She would give us an assignment to do that night, and then if we didn't do it by the next morning, to hop on the bus, and we had to literally bring the page of whatever we did. We couldn't get on the bus to go do the tours, and she would literally kick people. Like there was like one day, I think 4 or 5 people who didn't make it on the tour because they didn't follow through and do their assignment. So it was pretty intense, but one of the things that it did is it made us all play a little bit harder. So you guys know Shree's husband, Jeff, right? He's never taught an essential oil class. The closest he came is he had to go to Korea for a doTERRA thing, and he through a translator like had some notes and kind of read something about like part of a class kind of situation. But Jeff in our hotel room like that night actually taught me a one-on-one class, and it's actually kind of funny. He's like, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but obviously the more we practice it, the more we get better at it, the more questions we're going to have. So if you have questions, I've got tons and tons of notes I can go back through and check if I don't have the answer right off the top of my head. But yeah, it's good. So actually, I'm gonna stop sharing.